Hello and welcome to Sport for Business. I'm delighted to be joined once more by Nicole Turner, multiple European, world and Olympic medalist in the para swimming category. You're very welcome back to Sport for Business, Nicole.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the new partnership with Aer Lingus that Paralympics Ireland has signed today. But let's first of all just catch up on you. Another big summer of wins in Madeira for the World Championships. What are your memories of that, and are they still very vivid for you?
Yeah, if I'm honest, it was a mix. There were mixed emotions. I think the year after games is always an unsettled year. Because I think we were lucky, well, we thought we were unlucky, but with Rio, our World Championships the year after, they were meant to be in Mexico, but because of the whole volcano situation, they actually got cancelled. So the year after Rio, we didn't really have anything. We still swam, we still went to the odd few competitions, but there was no big competition at the end of it. And back then it was we've nothing really to train for majorly, but if anything, it was nice because there was no pressure. Whereas since Tokyo, I think also since Tokyo winning a medal and coming home, it was a bit different experience than it was to Rio, but it was a lot harder to get back into swimming. And we knew we had to get back into swimming because of our Worlds, and Worlds were actually 6 weeks earlier than they would have normally been because of some countries had the Commonwealth Games. So it was a very short season, and I think I went and did, because I didn't do my leaving cert, I went and did a PLC. So I obviously went back to education, and even I won't lie, I did enjoy the year. I went and saw friends and didn't make as much sacrifice as I did every other year. So I think Worlds, it did show that I had that year, but I think if anything, it was the year to do it. And I'm thankful I experienced that year. 2 bronze medals at the World Championships, it is still a massive achievement, but I just think I personally on the day I felt I could have done a lot better, but then when I reflected on the year that I had, it sort of added up why the performance was the way it was.
And I think most elite sports people, most of us would give ourselves a bit of a break after the sort of reaching the high to the top of the mountain like you did in Tokyo. You say it was different, but of course you were only 14 in Rio when you were coming back from there. And so, you came back from there as a child. You're now a young one with all of the rest of it. Interesting that you mentioned the leaving cert. I know that was something of a bugbear as to whether you were spending time studying or training to become a Paralympian one more time again. But you're in college now. What are you studying?
Sport management. I think the year, obviously it was meant to be a year out of school, and then that year turned into 2. And if I'm honest, I didn't, if I still wanted to keep on swimming the way I was swimming, the leaving cert at home definitely was not possible. So that's when I got offered a PLC, and from my PLC, I've been able to come in and do a degree. So I think it did all work out in the end. I just went a different road to most people. But I'm doing what I want to do now, so it all worked out in the end. It just took an extra few years.
Yeah, that's brilliant, and also a great example of the fact that the path that you actually end up traveling doesn't necessarily need to be the one that everybody else has laid out for you in advance. So congratulations on that. And you're back in training again now up in the National Aquatic Centre. And obviously Paris 24 is on the far horizon. What have you got now to prepare for in between that?
Thankfully, I'm one, Paris is the ultimate. It is the big goal, it is 2 years away. But I think if I'm honest, I like taking it season by season rather than everything leads to Paris. So we've just, as we said, we just came back from our World Championships in June. And then we continued swimming and swam our own able-bodied nationals in the NAC at the end of July, and then we all took the month of August off just because, if anything, it was the first year in about, obviously minus COVID, but it was the first year since 2017 that we could all have a summer break, because between Worlds and Paralympics in between then, they were always end of August, early September, so it wouldn't really be a break. So we all just kind of switched off. Some of us went on holidays, and just took the month off, and then we came back in September and we're actually training for another World Championships in Manchester next July. Well, it's the end of July into the early August. And then that'll be the open qualification for Paris.
Great. It'll be around in jig time. Now, of course, you're a para athlete, but you're a swimmer first and foremost. And interesting to say about competing in the able-bodied as well as in the para competitions. Yeah. Swimming is in a pretty good place at the moment. I know the consultation about a national strategy was out there recently, took in 6,000 submissions, which is probably about 100 times more than would normally be expected on something like that. Does it feel as though swimming is in a really good place?
Oh, completely. Like there's so many, because even like we laugh, the way I was 14 in Rio, I was the youngest member of the team from 2015 up until just before we went to Tokyo in 2021. And then when we went to Tokyo, Roisin re-joined our team. And now another swimmer called Amy Sheridan. And there's even more young swimmers coming up that they just haven't advanced onto the panel yet and are traveling with us. But I think the past 2-3 years para sport has grown enormously in Ireland and across the world, and it's so good to see, because I think there's so many athletes that are coming out, retiring and giving up the sport, and then it's nice to see that there's potential there in the younger ones that'll keep it going for a good few years.
It's slightly different than to be a veteran rather than the youngest on the team.
Oh, completely. I know. Like, I mean, people laugh because it took me a while when I was 18, it took me a while to actually get used to looking after myself. But I think it is nice having younger girls on the team, and they are lovely girls as well. So the more, like, there's been competitions where there's only like back in Rio 2016, and even in Tokyo, there was 4 of us in Rio, there was 5 of us in Tokyo. So it's nice having them extra few members on the team to make up, to have a good few extra numbers and just have them around.
You talk about looking after yourself, but today's announcement that Aer Lingus is coming on board as a partner of Team Ireland and the Paralympics is an important one as well. How much of a difference does it make to you as an athlete, knowing that the kind of support structures which they can bring in terms of making sure that you get to qualification tournaments, making sure that you get to Paris in on time, in comfort, and with all of the necessary equipment that you need?
Oh, it's a massive difference. I think, like, any sort of airline, but especially being Aer Lingus, an Irish airline, it gives us, it shows that we're great athletes, but an airline like Aer Lingus is an amazing partnership. And it's just going to open so many doors for not just the swimmer, like all athletes, all para athletes around Ireland. It'll just help us get to, like, there'll be some competitions, there'll be some training camps we don't go on simply because they're so far away. They might be across the world. And simply because we won't have the money to find so many flights, whereas now the Aer Lingus is on our back and covering most of them flights. It's absolutely amazing. And I think anyone would want free flights, but I think free flights with Aer Lingus is something that we won't let go anytime soon.
Well, you've had Hayes Ireland announced only a few weeks ago, Permanent TSB coming on board as main partners, Allianz staying in there as principal partners, as they've been for a long time as well. I think you can consider the fact that para sport is definitely loved by the corporate world anyway. And listen, the very best of luck in all of the preparation. I know how hard it is to make sure that you're ready for the big days. But Nicole Turner, it has been a pleasure as always.
Thank you. Thank you very much.